This podcast is brought to you by Ignition by Inductive Automation. This is Gary Minchell resuscitating my podcast, Gary on Manufacturing, which started life as Automation Minutes. And if you're in iTunes, you probably still see that term. One of the longer running podcasts in our industry, quite frankly. So I sort of let these things slide. I had a number of things going on last year. I had a major research project that sapped a lot of time. And not to mention I had a guy rip me about these things, and it affected me enough I actually stopped doing them for a little while. But despite my non-selling, I've actually noticed that I have a sponsor for the podcast now and a sponsor for the website. And not having a full-time job with another company, a little bit of income is always nice. So we plan to do a lot of these this year. So a few thoughts starting out the January, and so thoughts usually go into things like productivity and New Year's resolutions and all that sort of thing. Haven't done New Year's resolutions for a long time, and it's people make a resolution. I'm a fitness instructor. Every January I see my class triple in size, and by the third week of January it's back down to normal. We see that in fitness all the time, and we see it in other things. People say I'm going to lose weight. People have a New Year's goal for I'm going to read a book a month or all kinds of things, and then nothing changes. And then next year they look back on life and say, gee, I weigh more than I did last year, or I still haven't done things that I expected to do, and that sort of thing. So, New Year's resolutions I don't do. I do sit back and say, what do I want to be this year? Where do I want to go? And I'm more of a believer in changing habits. And so one habit is to get these podcasts going again, and the other habit is to get my email newsletter going back again. I got very busy, and that's an excuse, it's not a reason. And it's time to get things in order. And there's a lot of stuff happening to talk about. So let me talk first about personal productivity. I've spent the last year and a half playing around with various kinds of productivity tools, and I thought, I got tired when I was traveling of packing too much and having too many bags, and I had a series of flights there for a while where I'd come into Chicago late, I'd miss my connection, and then I'm on standby. And since I don't check baggage, A, that's good, but B, that means I had carry-ons, and that gets to be problematic when you're the last one on a plane and there's no overhead space, and just a hassle. So I started packing I bought a decent-sized Numi backpack, and I packed that thing, and for a 3-day trip or less, I could get all my clothes in there. But I was getting upset carrying my laptop. I had an old MacBook Pro. The sucker was heavy on a relative scale, and so I thought maybe I could do iPad only. So I was using an iPad with a Logitech keyboard, and I could do a number of things with it. I mean, I had Office, I had Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. I had it also through Google Docs, so I had a number of different things going on. Since I left Maintenance Technology magazine a little over a year ago, I wasn't doing collaboration anymore like I was when I was helping those folks out over there, and we were doing a number of things. So I was trying iPad only. Well, things got kind of problematic. These darn companies that want to get you in their sandbox and not let you in anybody else's sandbox. So all of a sudden, let me go back up a second. So I was using Word. I used Dropbox. Dropbox is really good. I share folders with people I need to share with. I have an administrative assistant, and so I share with Holly. I'm doing some marketing for an investment that I made in a coffee shop. In fact, this is the coffee behind me. In fact, let's see if I get out of the way. That's a picture of the farm in Thailand. We buy direct trade coffee. So it's a bit of a mission, but I'm doing marketing there. I share folders with people there for photos and different things. So another one of my little areas of expertise in marketing. But anyway, I discovered that all of a sudden, Microsoft is disabling features if you use Dropbox. They want you to buy their subscription to Office 365, and so I go from owning, which you really don't own software, but instead of owning something I can use, they want you to pay a monthly fee, which I'm doing with Adobe, and not really happy because I don't know that I get $50 a month use out of InDesign and Photoshop and all this stuff I get with Adobe, but it's hard for me to give it up. So Microsoft, I can give it up. So, but if I use Dropbox, I lose features like crazy. It's just a very basic thing, and I didn't want to buy the subscription to Office 365. Google Docs. Oh, Google Docs are cool, except you can't use Dropbox either. They want to put you into their Google Drive. They want everything going into Google Drive. I looked at Apple. Apple wants everything in iCloud, and Apple Docs are not compatible with everything else. Naturally, that's Apple. Even though everything I own is Apple, I'm recording this on. I actually got a new computer, a MacBook Air, which is very lightweight, solid-state drive, and I can do pretty much everything I could with a laptop, including edit these audio files and video files. The iPad just wasn't working. It was too many things constrained, too many things went on. There was an app for WordPress for all the blogs that I have, which I was doing like 3, and but the app wasn't all that stable and robust. I had an app for MailChimp for my newsletters, and the app wasn't as good as going through the website on a laptop. Just too many things were constrained on the iPad. I was losing way too much productivity. So, and now I barely use the iPad. I use it for reading. I have a Kindle app. I put a lot of books on it, although I still like physical books, but the iPad works well. You can highlight, go back and check through all the highlights if I'm doing something for work, for example, or for future writing. And so I'm a little bit unhappy with the way these companies are trying to maneuver us into their sandbox only. But that's just the way technology's always been. Is can I capture you and keep you playing only with me and not with anybody else? And it's a pain. And in fact, I just saw an article on Medium, which is a kind of a blogging tool, if you will, but it's also its own sandbox. You're in Medium and you're in Medium. But anyway, I saw an article there about somebody who ditched both Microsoft and Apple and went with Linux, and they're really happy. And but once again, you have constraints. So anyway, my productivity has improved greatly. I went with a MacBook Air. It's very lightweight, but it's a full-fledged computer. I don't have the same constraints as I had with the iPad. So the iPad I just use for specific purposes, and that's basically in my backpack. So let's segue from personal productivity into business productivity, and the hot topic that on everybody's mind is Internet of Things. And I've been writing on Internet of Things for quite a while, and recently been focusing an awful lot on it. There's actually business coming in to discuss either consulting with it or writing about it or leading discussions on Internet of Things. And what becomes very interesting is some people think Internet of Things is a thing, but it's not a thing. It's actually a strategy. In fact, when I talk to Europeans, if you're in Germany, their strategy is Industry 4.0. And if they're not in Germany or Germanic, their strategy is Industrial Internet of Things. So it's a strategy, or it can be a platform. And what I've been discovering is some companies trying to figure out how to exploit it, use it, or use it as a tool or whatever, get off the track a little bit. I've had companies come to me and say, I want to buy as a company in a certain segment because if we bolt it on, then we're an Internet of Things company. No. I like what PTC is doing. PTC just before Christmas announced it was purchasing Kepware. So it could get Kep Server EX, which kind of uses all their OPC technology and some other things to connect data around. Kepware or PTC had previously purchased ThingWorx, and ThingWorx was a cool piece of technology that their founders looked around and said, "Oh, it fits in the Internet of Things because it connects things." And then, so PTC bought ThingWorx, decided to do a whole Internet of Things strategy, and then they purchased Axeda, a company with some cool technology looking for a better business. and then it purchased another company that does data analytics, and it put together these connectivity pieces with the data analytics pieces, and it's actually building an Internet of Things platform, if you will, not just a not just something, not just bolt-on applications. It'll be interesting to see how they pull it off. Just buying all these things doesn't make it so, but they've done it before in the CAD and simulation business and in the services business, where they bought a bunch of companies and put them together. So they have a track record. And it's not a company I follow very closely in the past, but this looks interesting, and I'll be definitely following them for all of this. Why do all this Internet of Things stuff? Why would you invest in it, and why would you go into it? It's another productivity tool. So basically what you're doing is productivity, and you can gather a lot of information, do KPIs, dashboards, and so on, and then you can increase the productivity, efficiency, effectiveness of your plants, and that's why you should do it. And that was my segue from personal productivity into corporate productivity, if you will. So at any rate, wishing you all a good 2016 as I get these podcasts ramped back up again, and other things, and watch for more coverage of Internet of Things, plus typical automation and business cases of using technology for fun and profit. And this is Gary Minchell, Gary on Manufacturing. This podcast is brought to you by Ignition by Inductive Automation. See you.